What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Skywars. So today, I'm going to explain to you just how difficult it is to actually write songs. So, personally, my songwriting process starts, and I sit down for about 10-20 minutes, somewhere in between there. And I just write down literally any thought that crosses my mind. Any of it. I sit down in complete silence, and anything that enters my mind goes down on the paper. That is how it starts, because that is the easiest way to start, like, really thinking about what you want to write about, what your current mood is, you know, what's on your mind. It's one of the easiest ways to get started. So I start by writing down just a bunch of random thoughts, because it's easy to start with. No, I'm not that dumb. And after, you know, sitting there for a few minutes and getting down those thoughts, you're like, okay, well now you got to come up with synonyms for them, because those words themselves don't always sound the best together. So you start thinking of, like, brainstorm, like, oh, well, this means the same thing, but it sounds better. So you got to start thinking of that perspective of things. And then, you know, you got to worry about syllable structure, because you want your song to be almost symmetric when you're, like, looking at the lyrics. Not exactly in the sense that each word is as long as each other or anything, but in that, like, your verses, they have the same structure to them. You don't want to have verses that sound like they're from two completely different songs. So that's one of the things that you have to take into account when you're, like, picking out lyrics and stuff. That in itself is a difficult thing to start with, but then you have to calculate in, you know, there are people... Wait, do I have a diamond helmet? No. There are, like, words that just don't sound good together, like whether it's because they don't rhyme or because they do rhyme or what, depending on the structure of it. And beyond that, coming up with a melody for lyrics is so difficult, because you're like, well, why, like, these words should work together based on their normal syllable structure, but they don't, because you're singing it. It's different. And that being said, sometimes it's easier because you're singing it. So, like, you know, you can change how long a word is just by saying it for longer, or you can change how short a word is by saying it quicker. You know, it's a bit easier in that sense. So anyways, yeah, the most difficult part of songwriting is making a melody, because there are three parts to the melody. You've got the chorus, right? And then you've got the verses. The verses are a little bit more difficult than the chorus. The chorus is the easiest part. The verses are a little bit more difficult because, you know, you have to make both of them have symmetry. They have to have the same syllable structure, the same length, you know, all that. I mean, they can be a bit longer, but they have to continue with that same syllable structure. So your verses are a little bit more difficult, because you have to make sure that they can work together. After that, the next most difficult... Well, actually, no. The verses aren't the most difficult. The most difficult is the bridge, because with the verses, you know, you can work them around. You can figure out what works best with the two of them, and it's the same with the chorus. And they don't have to be in any way, like, I mean, they obviously have to be a little similar, because it's got to sound decent, but they don't have to be too similar. With the bridge, however, it is completely different. It's not a chorus, it's not a verse. So it becomes way more difficult when, you know, you have to all of a sudden come up with an entirely new melody for an entirely new part of the song, and it's not the same. It's not, you know, the chorus where you can just repeat it. It's not the verses where you can kind of just rework the same idea. It is an entirely new thing. So what some people do for their bridge is probably the best option for a bridge is to rework the chorus and do all the same lyrics from the chorus, except in a different way. Reimagine the way you sing it. And that's one of the best ways to do the bridge. Now, the other option is if your song has a pre-chorus. That is another option. You can redo the bridge as a reimagined pre-chorus rather than an actual reimagined chorus, which is also way easier. But when you're trying to do the bridge originally, right, you want it to have entirely new lyrics, entirely new melody to it. That's when it gets difficult, because you have to figure out a way to make it feel like a good end almost to the song, because the chorus is like it's like the main finish, right? But the bridge is what kind of seals it, right? So that does make things slightly more difficult. You have to make it feel like it's good enough to be at the end. And it's kind of hard to wrap up your thoughts in one final thing, which is why a lot of people just do the pre-chorus again, because, you know, it feels like a good way to lead into that final chorus. But, that being said, on the other end of things, the bridge is one of the easier parts as well, because you don't have to work with another part to repeat it. Don't get me wrong, it's difficult because you don't have to work with another part to repeat it, but you don't have to rework it too much. Once you find a melody that fits with the other two well enough that you like it, it's done. It's that simple. You don't have to redo it again with different words or anything. That's just it. That is the one benefit of a bridge, is you don't have to rework the syllables of another thought, of another, you know, lyric that you're wanting to use, but you're like, well, how am I gonna use it that it'll sound good with the others? Because, I mean, again, that's one of the banes of my existence writing, is I'm like, I like this word or this lyric that I've come up with, but how do I make it work with the others? So after you've gotten, you know, your syllable symmetry down, you've gotten your syllable symmetry, and you've gotten your what's it called, your bridge and your choruses done. If you have a pre-chorus, you know, that's an entirely other thing. Pre-choruses are probably the easiest to do, in my opinion, because it's like the chorus but with a melody similar to the verses. So once you've got that, once you've got the verses, you've got the pre-chorus. Anyways, yeah, pre-chorus, easiest part. You only have to write it once, and as long as it feels like a good transition that ends the verse well and leads into the chorus well as well. I said well 3 times in that sentence. As long as it feels right as a transition between the verse and the chorus, it's done. You've done it, you know, that works. And, you know, so the pre-chorus itself is the easiest part. The second easiest would be the actual chorus. The third, the verses, and the hardest is the bridge, easily. And that's in my opinion, though, so for anyone else that songwrites that might watch this video, please give me your opinion on it. But, that being said, the other thing that makes the pre-choruses nice is, you know, as long as you've gotten one decent melody for it, you can solve the bridge as well, which makes that an easier process. But anyways, moving on from the songwriting part of things, the music is just as difficult, because you have to start, say you're in a band, for example, like I am, you have to start collaborating with your ideas, which isn't, that's not the bad part. Collaborating with your ideas on what you could do for music, that's good. You want outside opinions. You want a lot of people to come together and be like, oh, well, this could sound good here, because that'll give you good perspectives on how you're gonna actually do the song, if that makes sense. So as soon as you all start like putting together your ideas, it becomes an actual song. The issue with that comes in, you have to figure out what sounds good behind the lyrics and what sounds good together. So you're trying to figure out what sounds good behind certain lyrics, like the chorus, for example. The chorus, you're trying to figure out what exactly you want to do for your actual chord progression, or if you're not on guitar or bass, you know, what you want to do for the drums. There's a lot of things that have to go into account, and they have to sound good together, but also behind the lyrics. So like certain things, a trick that a lot of musicians use is the guitar player, their chords will kind of sync up with the vocals, because it'll like make the vocals sound almost more vibrant, more powerful, more refined. That's a good word for it, refined. So that's what a lot of people do, because it does sound better. I'm sure you can notice it in a lot of music that you might listen to if it has guitars and vocals. That's one of the best tricks you can do. And then, you know, guitar and bass, generally they're doing similar things but not quite the same. The bass is like the ultimate cross between what the guitar is doing and what the drum is doing. So if you can figure out the guitar and the drum, or even just the bass, if you figure out just the bass for a song, you can figure out the other two relatively easy. Anyways, guys, that was another episode of Skywars. If you enjoyed, subscribe. I'll be releasing music here soon. Join the channel Discord. Why are you still here? Anyway, see you in the next one.